Good evening. In Trendez News Report, join me as I brave the aftermath of Typhoon Yagi and capture the most jaw-dropping scenes of destruction in Vietnam. Typhoon Yagi, one of the most powerful storms to strike northern Vietnam in decades, made landfall on Saturday, unleashing destructive winds and heavy rains that have claimed at least 4 lives and left more than 70 people injured. The storm forced the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of residents and caused widespread damage across several provinces, making landfall at 1:30 p.m. local time in the coastal province of Quang Ninh near Haiphong City. Typhoon Yagi brought maximum sustained winds of 127 miles per hour, equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane, according to the U.S. Navy's Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Although it had intensified to a Category 4 storm earlier in the day, it began to weaken as it moved inland, downgrading to a tropical depression by early Sunday, as reported by Vietnam's National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting. The coastal regions of Quang Ninh and Haiphong, both crucial hubs for sea trade and manufacturing, bore the brunt of the storm. In coastal towns near Ha Long Bay, powerful gales sank boats, toppled utility poles, and uprooted trees. Fishing communities living on the bay's hundreds of small islands were particularly vulnerable to the violent waves. State media reported that over 8 million people in the northern provinces experienced power outages. Maritime disasters unfolded as vessels in Quang Ninh were swept away by the storm's force, some with crew members still aboard. One sailor was confirmed dead, and more than a dozen others are missing. Nguyen Viet Ant, a 32-year-old resident of Ha Long City, described the devastation. "I've never seen anything like this in my life. The wind was so strong that it blew everything." The Civil Aviation Authority of Vietnam suspended flights at 4 airports on Saturday, while public transportation services in Hanoi were halted. Factories in an industrial zone in the north ceased operations, sending approximately 14,000 workers home due to power failures caused by the storm. The industrial zone houses major manufacturers, including Pegatron, an assembler for Apple, and Bridgestone, the world's largest tire and rubber producer. Bruno Gisbert, general director at Deep Sea Industrial Zones, remarked on the storm's intensity. "By far, it was the strongest storm that we have ever weathered out." Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh ordered closures of schools and urged provinces and cities, including Hanoi, to prepare for the storm's impact. "Strong winds in Hanoi will have a major impact on people's lives," warned Nguyen Van Hoang, head of the Meteorological Center's forecast department. Residents took precautionary measures, with some shop owners placing large cargo containers in front of their doors to shield against the wind. Nguyen Van Bong, a Hanoi resident, expressed shock at the storm's ferocity. "All houses with tin rooftops in my neighborhood have been blown away." As the storm moved inland on Saturday evening, areas could still expect waves up to 13 feet high, particularly in the Gulf of Tonkin. Meteorologists warned of the risks of landslides, floods in small rivers and low-lying areas, and storm surges along the coast. Some regions were forecast to receive over 19 inches of rain within a day. Before hitting Vietnam, Typhoon Yagi had already caused significant damage in southern China, where it was described by authorities as extremely destructive. The storm affected more than 1 million people across Hainan, Guangdong, and Guangxi provinces, resulting in at least 3 deaths and over 90 injuries. High-rise buildings shook, windows shattered, trucks overturned, and homes collapsed under the storm's power. In the Philippines, where Yagi initially formed in the Philippine Sea last weekend, the storm was responsible for at least 20 deaths. It rapidly intensified in the South China Sea, becoming a super typhoon with winds exceeding 150 miles per hour before making landfall. As recovery efforts begin, authorities in Vietnam and neighboring countries are bracing for continued challenges, including potential flooding and infrastructure repair. The full extent of the damage is still being assessed, and emergency services are working tirelessly to restore power and assist affected communities. Subscribe to our channel for the latest news, in-depth analysis, and real-time updates you can trust. Don't miss out. Be the first to know what's happening around the world.